Oh, cool. I got the SR battlecruiser. I wonder how good she'll be. This is still not enough. These are all the repair ships I have, but it's still not enough. I know what I need to do. Are you... Alright, next up on the list is IJN battlecruiser Amagi. Amagi is a super rare battlecruiser from the Crimson Echoes event. Unfortunately, if you missed that event, it will probably take some time before the rerun will occur. Aside from standing out with their cough, does Amagi stand out among the many backliners that exist in the IJN side of the game? Well, let's take a look at what makes her tick, and maybe find a cure to her illness. One interesting thing to point out about battlecruisers is that there aren't that many in the overall game, at least for the EN side of things. Heck, the only other SR battlecruiser that I'm aware of right now is freaking Hood, dude. So stats-wise, we can only really compare Amagi to Hood, since the others are of lesser rarities and they wouldn't really give the best comparison. Now, Hood is known for being a solid backliner, but as to why, well, we'll cover in a different video. Despite being the only two SR battlecruisers that exist right now, both are quite different units. In regards to their offensive stats, Amagi seems to be more attack-focused, as she has a significant difference in firepower when compared to Hood. What also originally surprised me was that she also has a torpedo stat, even though it really isn't that major. Unlike most characters with this stat, she does not attack regularly with them. Her torpedo attacks come from a skill, of which we'll discuss later. Outside of those two damage methods, Amagi's reload is a tad bit lower than Hood. Amagi may not be able to attack as quickly as Hood, but when she does attack, she'll be able to do some decent amount of damage. Now, on the survival side of things, Amagi's overall health is lower than Hood's by a decent margin. They both have medium armor and will be susceptible to the same damage modifiers from various weapons and receive the same damage. Amagi barely beats Hood in terms of evasion, but remember that it is still low enough that they're both very likely to get hit. Lastly, their anti-air is drastically different, with Amagi's being significantly lower than Hood's. This means that Amagi will take noticeably more damage than Hood will from air-based attacks. When we look at the stats overall, she seems built more for like the glass cannon playstyle. She'll hit hard when she attacks, but when she's attacked, it's possible she'll take a good amount of damage as well. If one is willing to spend the resources towards leveling her towards the max level of 120, she does gain a decent boost to most of her stats. The most notable thing here is the jump in her overall health, which will help her stay alive longer in a fight if necessary. She also receives a decent boost to her firepower, torpedo, and evasion stats. Unfortunately, the one area that she really needed boosts towards, anti-air, didn't get much love in the last 20 levels, so she'll still take a decent amount of damage from plane attacks. Her overall efficiencies aren't too ridiculous, save for the 180% efficiency with her secondary gun. She has 40% more there than Hood, but suffers a 5% less efficiency on her main gun and a 10% less efficiency on her anti-air gun. That secondary gun efficiency seems to be low in battleship tier, which means she'll have a way easier time defending herself. Her overall stat line is, for the most part, impressive, but what's also worth noting is her skill set. Amagi has 3 skills, one of each category that aid her in combat. The first of her skills is Ageless Phoenix. This passive skill activates immediately at the start of battle and decreases the firepower, torpedo, and aviation of all enemy ships by up to 9%. While this buff may not seem like a major boon, one can consider this as a slight damage reduction for your fleet, as the enemies won't be able to hit as hard as they normally would. Her second skill is Efficacious Planning. This skill is also a passive and reduces burn damage that your backline takes by up to 15%. This skill also provides up to a 10% boost to the entire backline's evasion stat. So now she's already gone and reduced the overall damage output of the enemy, and now this skill reduces the damage over time from burns. One character that honestly would benefit from this is Izumo, as one of her skills kinda gives her a slight weakness to fire. While the evasion boost is a nice bonus to the burn resistance buff, just remember that your backline's evasion is still not going to be crazy high enough for it to really make a difference. Lastly is her offensive skill called Crippling Strike, which grants Amagi up to a 70% chance to fire a special barrage upon firing her main gun. This barrage also includes a small torpedo barrage that is influenced by her torpedo stat. This barrage is impressive enough and can annihilate enemies without much effort. so when you hear that chuckle, things are about to get crazy. This skill also grants one last minor perk, and that is if Amagi is with 3 other Sakura Empire ships, the overall loading time of her first salvo is reduced by up to 45%. So if her fleet satisfies this condition, then you'll see her firing her first salvo of the fight relatively quickly. What's hilarious about this skill is that it can actually stack with the high standard fire control radar, reducing the cooldown even further. Overall, Amagi is an interesting character whose stat line is very damage focused, but her skills take a more defensive approach. This allows her to act as a really good backliner. She has supportive skills focused on the survival of her fleet, but isn't afraid to hit hard when she needs to. So now for the final question. Mob or boss fleet? Honestly, I can't really say that either fleet is a bad pick for Amagi, but I do feel like that the mob fleet is a better overall environment for her. The skills work well in both areas, with only a few concerns. The first one being that if you're running with 4 Sakura ships and a boss fleet, her salvo may be way ready before the boss is even engaged. So you might find yourself in a weird timing situation where you fired early and you maybe have to wait a few extra seconds before the next shot's available, or you just hold on to it and waste the potential damage. The stat debuffing will help in both areas as well. However, if the boss doesn't have any high explosive attacks, then the high explosive skill won't really have any effect at all. Considering her benefit with being with fellow Sakura Empire ships, it would be best to consider having other IJN ships with her. One of my favorite formations uses her with Akagi, Kaga, and Ayanami. This formation I've just gone to calling speedrunners, as it takes advantage of the backliners being able to attack very quickly. With all their skills combined, my entire backline is capable of attacking within the first 15 seconds of any fight. Even if one doesn't want to utilize 3 other Sakura ships, her team buffs help any fleet regardless of their affiliation. Overall, Amagi is a really good and reliable backliner capable of working with a lot of fleets, but also gains additional benefits with working with her own ships. Now she can hit hard with her decent stat line and the barrage that she has, but her skills focus on trying to keep her fellow fleet members alive. In my opinion, she's definitely worth acquiring and leveling up as she provides a nice playstyle to work with. Of course, last but not least, she's also a great waifu, so give her that ring. Please. She's really sick. And that will be all for Amagi. Hope you all enjoyed and that this will help you in your future sorties. As usual, the list is shown on the screen. If there's any ship girl that I have not covered that is also not on the list, then feel free to let me know and I will get to her. Next on the list is everyone's favorite little prankster, Saratoga, and I'll go ahead and cover her lovely sister, Lexington, as well. I normally don't pair ships unless they are exactly identical or are requested together, but if you consider the fact that they are pretty much the same, save for Saratoga's retrofit, then I guess this works. And that's honestly the reason why I'm going to go ahead and cover them together. So look forward to their video next. Now, whether you are a regular viewer or a patron supporting the channel on Patreon, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys all again real soon.